So this is very much about domestic and inbound tourism. So when I'm talking about inbound tourism, I'm talking about international tourism. And you might think, we've got COVID, we've got the pandemic, we've not really got international tourism back. And that's absolutely correct. Things, as we know, tourism's obviously been hit particularly hard with the COVID pandemic, but things are very slowly coming back. But what I really want you to do this evening is to use this workshop as very much an educational piece, so you can learn about both the domestic but also about that inbound international market, and how you can take advantage of that going forward over the next few years. So here's the real difference between the two different markets. And for many businesses on the call this evening, if you already are a tourism business, then you probably already are doing a lot around the UK domestic market. So these are the people that live in this country. They're very familiar with the products and the destinations on offer. So it's a very easy and it's a lot quicker market to tap into compared to the international market. And we often find that it's the lower marketing costs, and we often find it's a little bit more of a simpler approach to actually go to market and actually get your product in front of consumers, but also some operators as well. Obviously, there's no language barriers, and often there aren't so many cultural barriers, and it can be a lot easier to go to market with your product with a domestic customer. Now, we're going to be covering a lot on domestic this evening, and as I say, that's going to be very much your quicker win over the next year, definitely. But we also want to talk to you about inbound tourism this evening. And it does take time to establish yourself within an international market or markets. There are sometimes and often higher marketing costs because obviously your reach is much wider, and it does often need to be very much more targeted as well. Obviously, you've got language and cultural differences in what you're actually marketing to, and you've got to really understand those markets that you are trying to appeal to, those markets you really want to reach. And this evening, we're going to cover a lot around how you actually can do that. So, domestic is what we're going to focus on most of all, but here's some interesting stats. So these stats are from Visit England and Visit Britain, the National Tourist Board. These are very much around before the pandemic, so back in 2019, and it gives you the value back in 2019 with the comparison of the domestic and the inbound. So the domestic there at 77%, that's the value. So much bigger, the domestic market compared to the inbound market, but the inbound market has been improving right up to the pandemic, and unfortunately, that progression kind of has obviously been hit massively, as you would expect. But what we're hoping to, as an industry, is see that inbound increase in future years and pick back up where we were lost over the last few years. So pick back to 23%, hopefully in about 2 or 3 years' time, fingers crossed. But it does take time, as I say, to get really established in the international markets. One of the reasons why the appeal for the international market is very much that the visitor does stay longer, and they tend to spend more money in a destination and do experiences than domestic travellers, hence the appeal that they bring. So it's worth spending the time thinking about the domestic, but also about that potential inbound visitor as well. So now we're going to meet some of the markets and the opportunities that are available to you. First of all, we're going to focus in on a very kind of domestic market. So we're talking about Britain. These are your residents, your customers, your visitors, your travellers here in the UK. And I've got a bit of a quiz for you to do. So this is our first poll activity of the evening. So this was a poll that this was some research that was done again before the pandemic back in 2019. So go back and remember what things were like previously. Which regions in Britain do you think spent the most on their holidays when coming to the east of England? So I'm talking Norfolk, Suffolk, Cambridgeshire, the whole wider region. Which regions do you think, sorry, which region spent the most on their holidays back in 2019? So on your screens now, you've got a poll. This is just a bit of fun. There's no prizes on offer, but just have a guess. You might even know the answer. What do you think, which region here in the UK spent the most? I'll just give you a few moments to have a go at that. So London there is coming in quicker, followed by the southeast of England. Just wait for everybody to have a chance to have a go at that. Definitely looks like London's leading ahead there with that. So, so majority you're thinking London, followed by the southeast of England, with one person there thinking the West Midlands. Thanks everybody for having a go at that. Just a bit of fun. I can tell you, I can reveal the answer is actually the east of England, interesting enough. So it's a local regional market that are coming to the east of England back in 2019, even before the pandemic. And now we've got the pandemic, we're very much seeing that as a kind of a steer to how things are anyway. So with visitors kind of checking out their local places, that what's close and local and regional to them. So before the pandemic, they were doing that, and they're going to be doing that again now. And that's quite typical that we see in many regions out of the southeast and out of the London corridor. So it's a local, it's a regional market, and I think this is a really good market for you guys to think about in the short term. So going on from today and really think about that regional market, that local market on your doorstep. It's a good one to focus in on going forward. As well as you can see, they're followed by the East Midlands coming second, and the southeast of England also there as well. So it's all about the geography. It's close by. It's the ones that you kind of want to tap into going forward. And if we have a look at the spend and the kind of the comparisons from 2019 to 2020, so we all cast our minds back what 2020 was like with a pandemic. It was terrible. These are really just depressing stats and data on the screen now, unfortunately, but it's the reality of what's been happening, obviously. Just goes to show you that it's a massive drop that's happened in tourism, and hopefully 21, we haven't got the data for that at the moment, but that hopefully has improved, and then this year improving again. So no surprises there with the data looking as disappointing as it has done there, but hopefully, as I say, things picking up in the future. So that's around your local, regional, domestic market. But what about your international market? So on this project, we're very keen to actually work with markets that are close to us, to our nearest neighbours. So we're talking France, Belgium, Germany, and the Netherlands. So in our next poll activity, we want you to actually decide which of these four markets, these four nations, which do you think visited the most to Britain back in 2019? So cast your votes again now. Again, there's no prizes, unfortunately, this evening. So this is interesting. Netherlands, 3 votes. France, followed by Germany. No votes for Belgium. Nil point. So there we have it. So Netherlands is coming top there. I can actually reveal the country, the market that's most popular coming to the UK out of those 4 nations, those 4 markets, is actually France. It's the French that come to us. This is obviously before the pandemic, but France ranks number 2 globally out of all the inbound traffic to the United Kingdom as of 2019, up to 2019. So France being number 2, just for information, actually the country that has, the nation, the market that has the most come into the UK is actually the US of A. America is the highest, second is France. As I say, the French are good to target. They're nice and close by, but have a look at that spread of seasonality to the UK. It's really encouraging and really interesting. And we really like this because we're talking about extending that holiday, that traditional holiday season, way out into the, August, September, but through to December and also in January and March. And look at the October and December, 26%. Are spending and traveling into the UK from France, and they're staying an average length of 5 nights. So a nice long time to see more than one place, to have many experiences as well. And on average, they're having a look at that, 39% are arriving by the Channel Tunnel. So they're either using their own cars coming by the Le Shuttle, or they're actually using the train and coming into London. But think of the potential there coming to Norwich, 2 hours from central London by train. Some nice connections there that you could possibly make. So we know that the French also, that they like to think ahead as well with their planning of their trips, and they like to, there's plenty in the media at the moment about Britain and not that kind of thing, but I mean good TV and documentaries and dramas and films. So there's some really good stuff out in the marketplace at the moment, in the media, sorry, as well. So it's tap into. So France, followed by Germany. So Germany comes second out of those 4. It also it ranks 3rd out of all the nations that come to the UK. And again, it has a good seasonal spread of travel to the UK as well, particularly the October and December, 25%. But a nice long stay, 6 nights on average back in 2019. That's going to be a typical German visitor visiting a number of different places. Yes, they might go to London, they probably will do, but with Norfolk, not too far away, it's a potential destination for Germans to actually visit. 17% arriving by sea and 5% from the tunnel. Obviously, Germany's getting further away from the links there with the Channel Tunnel, but potentially a good market to tap into. Particularly, the Germans like to book in advance. They like to go and actually research where they're going to go, and they like to plan ahead 6 months as well when they're starting to think about their trips. Again, this is before the pandemic. Things obviously have changed an awful lot in the world of tourism. So this is kind of for you to take away and think about, but also to think how that might relate now, because obviously bookings and things like that are a lot quicker now, and things turn around. So, if COVID restrictions have improved, then, tourism and business improves at the same time as well. So it's very much dependent on the situation with COVID at the time as well. So next, the third market out of those 4 is the Netherlands, ranked 7th out of all the nations and markets to the UK. And interesting enough, again, a good spread, but 27% in October and December come into the UK. 4 nights on average, so we're talking a nice long weekend. But again, the tunnel is a good way to actually visit, obviously now extending into the Netherlands, the train links and stuff like that. So 16% arriving by the Channel Tunnel as well. 68% of Dutch visitors start thinking about their trip 3 months or more before they actually arrive in Britain as well. So another good link there. And also 25%, as I say, arriving by sea. So actually coming in, probably and likely using their car. So again, Norfolk being a good destination to reach if they want to do that as well. Then we have a look at our 4th and final market that we've been looking at and focusing on this evening. That's Belgium, ranks 9th. Again, the spread is good, particularly around April to June, 26% and 26% again, October to December. 3 nights, much shorter. These are quick weekend breaks, but look at that tunnel, the connection through the Channel Tunnel, 61% are coming either by their car with the shuttle or by train as well. So thinking about that connection up across to Norfolk and about how you can actually think about targeting this market potentially, knowing this information, it really does help. A lot of the Belgians like to kind of visit the beach and do these kind of things as well. So very much kind of family-based weekends or holidays as well. So lots of information there in all of our markets. All of this data has been shared with us through Visit Britain and their market snapshots. These are updated all of the time. So I'd really encourage you, if you do want to reach out to international markets or just do some further research after this evening, please do head to the Visit Britain website, where you can find out about these markets and a whole host of other ones as well. There's lots of information for you to take away there. And just a quick note before we move on to the next part, our next chapter, this just tells you about the lead-in times, those really important lead-in times on average when the French, the German market and the Netherlands are thinking about booking and their trips away. Unfortunately, at the time of doing this presentation, there was no data for that Belgium market. But you can see there, the Germans, 3 to 6 months, 44% really thinking ahead about booking their trips. And again, a bit of a caveat with that, COVID has changed things, but our nation, our typical ways of doing things will come back once life does return back to more of a normal as well. Now, a word, kind of a takeaway word for you to think about is very much kind of, it does take time to work with those international markets. So you need to think ahead. You need to plan ahead for 23, 24, 25. It's good to start doing your research, kind of educate yourselves about these markets so you can be ready when the time is right as well. So this is now when we're looking at the latest data. So this is our most accurate and kind of informing data that we've got at the moment. So some more research completed by Visit Britain. This was a survey and a poll that was done in the number of different countries that you see on the screen. The 3 circled there in the yellow are the 3 nations that we've been focusing on this evening. And this was a poll that was done in September to look at the very latest intentions of visitors in those markets and what their intention was to visit different markets as well. And you can see a whole host of things happening as well in there. Taking France, for example, Britain sitting right there in the middle, 11%. It has increased on its average. So that interest has actually increased. The Netherlands is actually increased at 14% there, but Germany, their intentions there for Britain have dropped. So there's a whole host of different things that can be happening there. Interestingly, not one of our markets we mentioned this evening, but Norway and the Scandinavian countries, Britain has really polled really high in the intentions there. So again, something to think about, and also the Irish market as well. Obviously, another close by market nearby as well, you can tap into. Britain coming second there with 22%. Obviously, this data is changing all the time. And again, if you want to get more of this, there will be another poll that will be done in the next few months, and you can update yourselves on the latest situation with our international markets.